Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and today I would like to talk about a hypothetical. A hypothetical that I do not currently believe, but it is something that I think is worthy of conversation because you never know how things will truly shake out. So, yes, I think Nintendo Switch 2, or whatever Nintendo will call their next generation console, will be coming out sometime next year. I think there are a variety of signs suggesting so. We've talked about a lot of them already, we don't need to focus on them for this particular video. But let's consider the possibility that maybe Switch 2 does not come out next year. If that's the case, how will 2024 shake out? What kind of games might we see? What kind of deals? What kind of promotions? Well, that's what we're talking about today. But before going forward, let me point out that we are aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and enjoy the ride as we talk about Nintendo every day. So while I don't want to focus on this, I think this point is important to sort of set up the rest of this conversation here. One of the main reasons why I think Nintendo will launch a new system next year is because there is this issue. And the issue is that Nintendo is still projected to have a third year of declining hardware sales. And historically, Nintendo has always announced a system before this point. Of course, given how Nintendo handles things now with shorter intervals between announcement and release, I can see how right now it's still totally fine. However, if there is no new system next year, that will be a fourth year of declining sales most likely. And something else about this that I think is really important to note here is that in the past, Nintendo has had two different platforms to focus on usually. Now it's just one. So, to have just one platform you're focusing on, and then going into a fourth year in a row with declining sales, from a hardware perspective, Nintendo's never really done that before. So, if, for whatever reason, Switch 2 can't come out in 2024, then what can Nintendo do to help mitigate the loss in sales? Because, from my perspective, that's pretty much a given, but there are things they can do that can make it not so bad. Well, one thing they can do is to continue to take advantage of something that has been very strong, and that is software sales. Because so many people own a Switch, more people are buying games for the Switch. So they gotta keep the games coming. And maybe also even putting out content on games that already exist. So a point I have been making recently is that Nintendo hasn't been announcing DLC for some of their main games that have come out this year, like Tears of the Kingdom, Pikmin 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. If Switch 2 isn't coming out next year, I think it makes sense to put out DLC for some of these. Now, Nintendo and the Zelda team have told us that there are no plans for DLC when it comes to Tears of the Kingdom, but that has not been said about Pikmin 4 and Mario Bros. Wonder. So, I could see some DLC coming for these games. And recently, Nintendo has been marketing Pikmin 4 a little bit more as a family game, as a holiday game. It's up for Best Family Game at the Game Awards. They're still talking about Pikmin Bloom. The way Pikmin 4 is shaped, they could add another map there as DLC, so it's pretty conceivable, and Pikmin 3 had DLC, so it wouldn't be too much of a surprise. So that's something I could maybe see, DLC for some of these games. And it should be mentioned that Splatoon 3 Side Order is still coming out sometime next year. And another possibility, given that Mario Kart is now done, the Booster Course Pass is over, Nintendo may want to start putting out DLC that's free to Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack members. What could that be? Well, maybe Animal Crossing, or maybe Smash Ultimate. One of these games they could maybe put out like an additional wave of DLC to keep people talking, to keep people excited, and to keep people subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online. So these are options that Nintendo can take advantage of from a DLC perspective. Now, looking at the games lineup that we have for 2024, we're getting another Code 2 Memories in January, Mario vs. Donkey Kong in February, Princess Peach Showtime in March, then Luigi's Mansion 2 HD sometime in the summer, and then Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. 80% of these games are some form of a remaster or remake, and I think we're going to be getting even more. So something I could see to help fill up the month of February, I think Mario vs. Donkey Kong might not be enough, would maybe be a shadow drop of a game that's announced during the typical Nintendo Direct we get in February. So maybe we still get a February Direct this time as well, and they announce, say, maybe, for example, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Jeff Grubb recently, and by recently I mean a couple months ago, said that he heard that Metroid Prime 2 should be coming soon. And during that same podcast where that was said, it was also brought up that something Zelda related that's not about Tears of the Kingdom would be happening this year. And recently we got news of the Zelda movie. So he may have been spot on with that, and he's been spot on about a whole bunch of other things in the past as well. Very good track record, just sometimes when it comes to timing, it's always hard to really pinpoint. So maybe that soon when it comes to Metroid Prime 2 isn't this year, but early next year. Similar to how Metroid Prime Remastered, we thought we would be getting that for the holiday of 2022, but it ended up coming out early 2023. So perhaps Nintendo shadow drops Metroid Prime 2. And if this happens, once Prime 2 is out there, Prime 3 will feel like a given as well. Maybe a shadow drop at the same time, or maybe it comes out a little bit later in the year. These are games that can come out that will help to bolster the lineup a little bit for 2024. But with Prime 2 coming and Prime 3 coming, I would have a hard time really believing that Nintendo wouldn't have anything to say about Metroid Prime 4. It's been believed for some time that Prime 4 is ready to be shown off, it's just really a question of when Nintendo decides to do so. So if Switch 2 isn't coming out next year, and there's already this bevy of remakes and remasters and not too many new games outside of Princess Peach Showtime, Nintendo probably would want to showcase one of their biggest, best games that they've been working on for some time, that being Metroid Prime 4. So regardless of whether Switch 2 or not is coming next year, I think Metroid Prime 4 has a strong chance to be one of the key games for the 2024 lineup. And so I think we are primed for a lot of Metroid content next year, and while I do think there will be a lot of new Metroid fans next year, not everyone's going to be a Metroid fan. Nintendo will need more than that. So, what else could they do? Well, there is also the long-awaited Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HDs. I think these could likely come out next year as well. Nintendo, I believe, is holding back these games to space out the Zelda releases to tide us over until the next big major Zelda release. The next big mainline new Zelda is likely going to take several years, so we're ways off from that. These could come in the meanwhile. Now, there's been a lot of discussion lately about a Zelda remake, maybe one of even Ocarina of Time. I do think there's a strong chance of this, but I think one of the big points, at least that I've been making, is the reason why this makes so much sense is because Nintendo would want it out early on for their next new system to showcase that system and to bring over a lot of Zelda fans onto that system. So if Switch 2 isn't coming out next year, I think this Zelda remake would be saved for that system, so it wouldn't be coming out in 2024. But even though we currently have 4 confirmed remaster remakes coming out next year, and I'm now suggesting that we could be getting 4 more, there are still at least 2 more that have been rumored that could be coming out next year as well. F-Zero GX Remastered and the remake of Fire Emblem Genealogy War. Those would be some quality releases that Nintendo could put into the lineup that would definitely add to the overall variety. But then we're looking at Metroid Prime 4, Princess Peach Showtime, and then like 10 remaster remake games. Thousand Year Door, Twilight Princess HD, those would be amazing to play on Switch, but I think Nintendo would need some new games as well. What might those be? Well, we know Bandai Namco is working on some sort of 3D action game, but we've also discussed in the past how that might also be some type of remaster remake, but we don't necessarily know if it's coming for Switch. So that could come out next year as well, and maybe it somehow is a new game and not a remaster or a remake, but it's hard to say for sure. And of course, outside of rumors and what we have some evidence of, Nintendo could always announce something that we don't know about that's coming. This happens every year. It's a pretty consistent thing to expect something unexpected from Nintendo. Maybe Nintendo uses Grezzo to remaster another game. Maybe they remaster Tomodachi Life. They did a great job with Miitopia. Maybe they could succeed here as well. Of course, that would be another remaster. We get a lot of new Kirby games, so there could be something like that. But something that I think would make sense as a new game that could be coming out next year is something Donkey Kong related. Yes, I know we're getting Mario vs. Donkey Kong in February, but that is a remake of a Game Boy Advance game where Donkey Kong isn't really even the main character. And that's a small release. I think there could be something a bit more significant and also new. There have been rumors of a Donkey Kong game being in the works, and I think it's just logical to expect a new Donkey Kong game. The Donkey Kong expansion to Super Nintendo World is still slated to be happening in 2024. So, perhaps Nintendo wants a new Donkey Kong game to line up with that. That could be another new game Nintendo could put out next year. And one more game that should be mentioned is something from the mainline Pokemon series. We always get something from Game Freak pretty much every single year. This year should be no different, whether that's a Legends Arceus or another remake. Something is coming next year from Pokemon. So I've already put out a decent lineup of games. Maybe it's not the best lineup Nintendo has ever had, but there would be some big hitters like with Metroid Prime 4, and a new Donkey Kong, and some pretty exciting remakes and remasters. This, in conjunction with maybe a revision for a Nintendo Switch Lite, maybe putting an OLED screen in there, and also finally a price drop, because the Switch has never gotten a price drop. Doing these different things, perhaps with a few more special editions, I think that would definitely help sales, especially the price drop. But something to keep in mind here is that while a price drop would probably get more people to buy a Switch, when the price is cheaper, you're also making less from the sale. So it may not really help Nintendo too much in terms of financials, because supposedly we've reached a bit of a saturation point with the Switch, where most people who want a Switch already have a Switch. But this would help out sales at least somewhat, you have to imagine, and it would definitely set things up for Switch 2 in almost certainly 2025. This is pretty much how I think things would shake out if there isn't a Switch 2 next year, which would be pretty good, but I think ultimately Nintendo would be hurting from a sales perspective, and that's the main reason why I don't think it will happen, but of course, you never really know. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andre's Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.